again to the Love Approach Project podcast. This is a brand new episode, and today I have an awesome guest, someone that I have actually admired a lot for a long time because I admire her passion for what she does. She helps people recover their energy, get healthy through holistic nutrition, and most recently, she is very passionate about helping new moms in their postpartum journeys. Her name is Claudia Vidor. She is the founder of Nourished by Claudia, and she's also a good friend of mine. So that's why you have the privilege of having her here today. Welcome, Claudia.
Well, thanks so much for the introduction. I feel really honored by now, and I'm really excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
No, fantastic. Thank you for saying yes. I'm so excited because I know that you are very knowledgeable, and I know that you really love what you do. So whatever we're going to talk about, people are going to get a lot out of this interview.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about nutrition and how it can prevent and help to overcome many issues in life.
Yes.
So let's get into
Yes, let's get into it. So, Clau, let's begin by telling or sharing with the listeners why you got into nutrition and why or how come you chose it as your healing art.
Well, to tell you the truth, I've always wanted to be a dietitian.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was 10 years old, 12 years old, I used to write food plans for my mom and her friends. But nothing really happened until 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in my mid-20s, and I had been feeling sick for a long period of time, especially with gut issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a colonoscopy, a couple of gastroscopy, but they couldn't find out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was suffering from panic attack.
Okay.
And also I had chronic candida and all of it. I was kind of
The full pack.
the full package, yeah. And I was feeling very miserable, and I couldn't find a way out. Went to see psychologists and GPs and specialists, but no one would get to the bottom of that.
Yeah.
And I remember that one day I went to see this GP, and she gave me anxiety pills. And that's where I knew that there must have been a way out.
Yeah.
So I went to see a naturopath, and my life completely, I don't know, it's changed, yeah. And unraveled, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided that nutrition was gonna be my career.
Yeah.
Because if I was feeling that way, someone else was feeling exactly the same way and wasn't receiving adequate care.
Yeah, the support they needed.
Absolutely.
It's funny, I mean, I've known you for a few years now, and only now I realize that we have a very similar story.
Yeah, because since I changed my life, I haven't had any gut issues any longer. My anxiety level has decreased tenfold. And and I remember when I saw this naturopath, and the first time she told me, well, you need to start going to sleep at around 9:30 at night. And back then I was really Italian and I used to go to sleep at midnight every night, and I remember chuckling. I was like 9:30 at night, and now every single night at 9:30 switch off the light.
You're in bed. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's interesting how those very difficult moments actually take us to our path. You know, those difficult moments just steer us into the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you find someone that plant a seed, and then someday the seed
grows. Into a big tree.
A massive tree.
Lovely. So let's get a little bit into the nitty-gritty of our conversation today. So I'm sure that many of our listeners have gone through some kind of stress in their lives. We all do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But perhaps we don't really know, we're not aware of what happens in our bodies when we stress out. So what happens, and also what are the consequences of not paying attention to that?
That's a great question now. But first of all, I would like also to give a small introduction on stress.
Sure.
Because people perceive stress as having financial issues, being really stressed out at work. But we are bombarded by daily stressors. Eating the wrong food, inflammatory foods, is stressors.
Of course.
And for example, I am a mother, being waken up at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's pitch black outside by a screaming human being. That's perceived as stress by my body. And that's why I'm not a big fan of avoiding, eliminating stress, or all the things that you read in magazines.
Yeah.
I believe that it's all about building up the resilience to stress. And to go back to your question, so stress basically wreaks havoc in our body.
Yeah.
Starting from the brain, when our brain is flooded by excitatory neurotransmitters, we get we get stress, we get into panic mode, and the frontal part of our brain, the prefrontal lobe, gets completely shut down.
Wow.
And that's when we make mistakes, and when neural pathways are built, the wrong kind of neural pathways are built. And then if we travel down to our body, then we're going to meet our lovely adrenal glands, which are two powerhouses that sits on top of the kidneys, and their main job is to release cortisol when we are stressed. Cortisol, we all know that it's a stress hormones, steroid hormones that is related to stress, and it has such a bad rep, but it is extremely useful.
Of course, it's in our body for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
It keeps our blood sugar in check, our blood pressure in check, maintains homeostasis in the body, but not if it's released 24 out of 7.
Of course,
Back in the days, cortisol would be released only when we were chased by a tiger. I know that everyone uses this example, but it makes it really simple to get it, right?
Of course, yes.
But nowadays, that tiger is a male filled, an inbox filled with males. It's being stuck in traffic. It's a crying child. And that's why we are constantly overloaded with stress and cortisol. And that's when our adrenal glands stop functioning.
Of course. And it was really interesting when you mentioned about the brain and about how it kind of like freezes. And we start making all these mistakes.
Absolutely.
Which becomes this cycle of, oh, I'm making mistakes, I'm more stressed, I'm forgetting things, oh my goodness, it's just building on the same.
It's never ending. And it's actually very interesting because I don't know if you're familiar with this, but sometimes people leave the house and they think, oh, I wonder if I left the stove on. If you have this kind of thought when you're stressed because you left the house in a rush, you will see that you have that kind of thought every single time. And in a long period of time, you will end up leaving the stove on. How fascinating is that?
Yes, you're building those pathways,
right?
Pathways in your brain, yes.
I find it extremely interesting how our body really works when we are stressed.
I know.
And then obviously when we are stressed, our digestive system stops working, and all the blood and the oxygen is sent to our muscles, because obviously we need to run and we are chased by this imaginary tiger.
Not eat.
Okay. And that's when our immune system starts suffering, and we get depleted, we stop absorbing our nutrients, we start having gut issues, we get sick, we suffer from muscle injuries. Linda Lau, we basically, our body doesn't really do well when it's bombarded by stressors for a long period of time.
Yes, which is in a way what we are all suffering from in this way of living.
But it's also up to us to build a toolkit. And whenever we feel stressed, we can just pull out one of the tools from our toolbox.
Totally,
so we can handle it.
I completely agree with that, and I think that's the challenge. I mean, that's the task that we all have at hand right now. To work on that toolbox, to learn as many different things as we can, and to find that unique formula for each one of us.
Absolutely, and that's what you do on a daily basis. When you support women and through your sound healing sessions, you're allowing women to take that time for themselves to actually release the stress from their body and to lower the cortisol amount. So,
Great. And so what happens when we don't pay attention to continuous stress in our bodies?
Where can I even start from? We get sick more often. We feel utterly miserable because you can't really be completely stressed out and happy. Our relationships start to suffer. And physically speaking, our digestive system stops working. We stop absorbing the nutrients. We start having all these weird symptoms like headaches and sleep apnea and panic attacks.
There are
high blood pressure.
Clau, so what would be the top foods for people to start including into their diets or having a little bit more of that could support them in their journey to heal from stress and to manage it?
So So, well, generically, we have already been talking about organic foods that come from Mother Earth, lots of water, filtered water, please, and the amount of water should be 33 milliliter per body weight.
Okay.
So you figure it out based on your weight.
All right. So per kilo?
Per kilo of body
Okay,
weight.
yes.
For example, if you, in my situation, will be 50 times 33, and that will work out to be 1.5 liters a day.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if I sweat or if I go to an exercise class or if I breastfeed, then I have to pump it up.
Okay.
Yeah. And just a little interesting fact, that when you don't drink enough, you actually become less smart because your brain cells shrink in size.
Oh my goodness, so please hear Cloud here.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to be smart, just keep on drinking the water. Yeah.
Less alcohol, more water.
Absolutely. So that's the generic, obviously. And then to get into the nitty gritty, lots of foods that produce or helps producing serotonin and GABA, which are the calming neurotransmitters. So foods rich in tryptophan and magnesium.
And what could it be?
Well, spinach.
Okay.
Spinach, and also foods rich in folate and vitamin C, just to support the immune system as well. And magnesium is the ultimate chillax nutrient, so I will start from that. Normally it's found in very yummy foods like avocados, nuts and seeds, wild-caught salmon, and please don't buy normal Atlantic salmon fillet, it's poison for your body. So wild-caught salmon, wild-caught sardines and all of that. And then even brown rice, turkey, all these foods, they're rich in tryptophan, folate and magnesium. So obviously you can find a list of these foods on Google, so you don't have to remember them all right now.
Yes.
But yeah.
Tryptophan. Just tell us a little bit about that.
It's just a precursor to serotonin.
Okay.
And serotonin is the feel-good neurotransmitters, and it also helps with the production of GABA, which is another neurotransmitters, which helps to stabilize our moods.
Okay, that's very interesting. Lovely. Cloud, thank you for all of that info, and I'm sure we could keep talking so much here.
Oh, please, can we? Can we have a second podcast?
I'm sure we can. But my last question.
Yeah, sure.
Because this is a Love Approach Project podcast. So, Cloud, could you please share with us, how do you approach life with love?
Oh God, I'm showered with love, and simply because I focus on abundance. I know that it's very easy to focus on what we lack of. So early on this morning I was thinking about the lack of time. A couple of weeks ago I was thinking about the lack of money. But if I shift my mentality and I use all my tools and I focus on abundance, I'm showered with love. And plus I'm married to the best human being and have the love of my life, which is turning 20 months old now.
Yes.
So
she's gorgeous.
That's what brings me love and harmony in life.
Yeah, okay. So you focus on abundance.
That's,
And what you have.
Yes. And seriously, we have so much.
It's a great way.
We just take it for granted.
Yeah. So a great way of bringing love into your life would be to